All right, good evening. This round we're going to be talking about the quick tie of the gold rib hare's ear nymph. This is a variant of what we normally tie, or what others folks tie. And what we're going to describe here is the gold rib hare's ear nymph, GRHEN for short. It's a variant that we tie using a pheasant tail for the tail instead of the typical guard hairs off the hare's ear or off the hare's mask. And it's also one of 3 suggested flies that we use for trout. The other ones are the zebra midge as well as the near deer. The recipe is very simple. You got a size 14 or size 16 or even smaller nymph hook. Additionally, the hare's ear dubbing. That's the kind of deal, the little mixed hairs and dubbing whatnot that you put on the thread as you wrap the body. And then a pheasant tail, which we'll use for the tail as well as for the, I don't know what it's called, back thing or whatever. And then a light wire ribbing. Sometimes we use gold, sometimes we use copper or silver. In this case, we use copper. And then some olive tying thread. Some suggestions on how to fish the gold rib hare's ear nymph. It's like the trout pellet, so just do a dead drift, let it float, let it do its thing, and let the trout take it. The other one is some short pulls to simulate rising insects, bugs, or whatever come from the bottom. And then setting up as a tandem rig, trailing to a near deer or olive woolly bugger or other streamer as the lead fly, and then the gold rib hare's ear nymph as the trailing fly in that tandem rig. All right, so we'll just do some quick descriptions of what we have here. So here's the gold rib hare's ear nymph. Got the hook and the bead head on. In this case, it is a bead head variant. You can tie it with a lead wire, but in this case, we're just using the bead head. We'll lay down the Dacron tying thread, and we'll start building up the pheasant tail nymph, or pheasant tail tail. And there's about 6 fibers of the pheasant tail. Snip that off. Go ahead and build the base up and move it forward. Add the copper wire. And we're just tying it in here. And then next we'll put in that dubbing. We'll put the wax on our fingers as well as a little bit on the thread itself. And then we'll just take a pinch of that dubbing and add it to the thread, twist it on there, and start building a tapered body. Once you have the tapered body about 3/4 up, just a bead head behind the bead head, we'll go ahead and start wrapping with the copper wire or thin diameter wire. In this case, copper. You can use gold. We'll tie it in, and then we'll kind of helicopter it to snap it off. And then we'll bring in that, again, I don't know what it's called, some back thing that goes on there to simulate something. But it's that pheasant tail, about 6 or 7 fibers, or 6 or 8 fibers, tying it in, bending it over to build that back or whatever it is. Snip it off, and then we'll do a quick whip finish, and then we'll snip that off and add in a little Velcro, I don't know what you want to call it, but to get it rubbed in there and get a nice bushiness to it. And then we'll end everything with some UV glue, and in 5 seconds you're ready to go. And there it is, gold rib hare's ear nymph. Another view of it, another view right here. Excellent fly, like we said. We fish it different ways. Again, we suggested earlier, dead drift with a trout pellet simulation, so it's just a dead drift, and then short pulls with that rising emerger nymph thing, whatever coming off the bottom, and then that tandem rig with a lead fly, be it the near deer or the olive woolly bugger. Both of those are pretty popular for a tandem rig in our area. And then having that trailing gold rib hare's ear nymph. Also, we do note that it is one of 3 of the suggested fishing flies. Put an article out way back when. It's still out there on those suggested fishing flies for trout, gold rib hare's ear nymph, the zebra midge, and then the near deer. One kind of variant or change to that is we like keeping the COF, or the Griffiths gnat in our fly box. So that's a good thing to also add to the 3 suggested flies. And additionally, when you're up in the blue, when you've got the Blue River up in Oklahoma by Tishomingo, One thing that we had learned is it's always good to keep some really tiny size 22 midges. Basically, it's a midge with a black thread and a little piece of white antron to simulate like a little bubble or something emerging. What happens is when you get a change in temperature, going from below freezing to above freezing, a hatch will happen and you won't even see these little tiny bugs. But sure enough, the trout will be feeding there, so it's always good to have that in there. So here's the quick tie gold rib hare's ear nymph, GREHN. Our way of tying it with that variant, using instead of the hare's ear tail, using those guard hairs, we're using the pheasant tail for the tail. All right, so that's it. That's all we have this round. Hope you can take away from this and use this fly for fishing. And do come back and check with us later. Maybe we'll have some additional videos and whatnot for this upcoming weekend. If the weather holds out, we might be able to get some good trout fishing in at the local ponds, as there's some trout derbies happening. If we can just get through some of the rain. I think it's supposed to rain initially in the morning, but things will clear up. Just be a little bit windy on us. All right. Till next time, we'll catch y'all later, and good luck and good fishing.